You must stay current or you will be left behind. And the technology is just racing, just ramping so fast. I can't imagine anyone not staying inside the organizations like yours or mine that can allow them to understand and keep current, because it is like an avalanche of information.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Digital Dentistry Decoded podcast. Now, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Phil Schefke with us. Now, he works at the Chicago Dental Society, helping run one of the biggest shows in the USA, arguably the biggest show and probably the most influential over there. It's really timely to speak to Dr. Phil because as we've all experienced or at least heard, the dental industry is pretty hard these days. Expos, I would say, they're getting harder and harder, attendance, etc. And a lot of people have their own theories. But look, we have the right man to talk to. Phil, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, I'm so glad to be here. It's really a thrill to talk with you. And we do have a lot of parallels in our worlds, and we just want to make the world better. And dentistry is the center of our universe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sure we're all very passionate, and it's definitely something that we all pour endless time into. So, Phil, look, for those of you who may not be aware of the Chicago Dental Society, or please just even about yourself, your history in dentistry, how did you get into this, and a little bit about the society.
Sure. Well, let's start with the Chicago Dental Society. It is an organization that is 161 years old. We started right after the Civil War in the United States, and Chicago has always been the center of dentistry in the United States. We had 3 dental schools back in the day. The American Dental Association headquarters are also located in Chicago, Illinois. We have more members in the Chicago Dental Society, more than all but 6 states. So we are the largest component of the American Dental Association. And we're very proud of all of that. But what we're proud of is that we've developed this Midwinter Meeting, which is a huge part of our organization. And the Midwinter Meeting has become recognized as the best meeting in the country. Now, we can only do that because we have a fantastic staff of 15 people. 15 people, a small but mighty force that can create such an amazing event. We also have an army of volunteers. With those members that are with us, they all, not all, but most of them volunteer in one way or another, and we're able to put this meeting together. And this year, we had over 600 exhibitors. We had over 150 clinicians that were providing lectures. And although the numbers may not be as much as they used to be, we're climbing back after COVID. We've had a lot of consolidation in the industry because of companies buying other companies. So we don't have as many sporadic small companies. So we're consolidating. So the 600 companies still represents a gigantic footprint. And speaking of the footprint, we have our meetings at the West Building of McCormick Place, which has the largest square footage of any show place in the country. And so we have everything going for us. Now, the only thing that people might be worried about is that in Chicago in February, that's the winter. That's why it's called the Midwinter Meeting. But right now, if you go to Chicago in February, the only place you want to be is inside at the meeting. So we have great attendance. Our exhibitors love that because we're not out goofing around. And our lectures are second to none. I mean, across the board, our continuing education is phenomenal. This year, we had 70 new speakers that have never spoke in Chicago before. And so our members and the people from across the country that come to visit, they really expect top-notch quality speakers. And to be honest with you, if you know the industry, we had over 100 scouts come to our meeting because they know that if they come to Chicago, they're going to find speakers that are up and coming, talented, and extremely informative. And so all of that, we couldn't be prouder of the direction that the Midwinter Meeting has been. It was fantastic, and it's even getting greater year by year.
It's incredible.
And my personal story is I was involved in organizations when I was in dental school. And when I got out of school, I just wanted to stay involved. And so I called, where do I go to get involved with the organized dentistry? And Chicago is so big that we're divided into 9 different branches. So each branch has a unique meeting throughout the year, about 6 meetings a year. And my branch met in my geographical area. They required officers in that group, so I became officers in that group. And then I got involved in state organized dentistry. I had a stint at the ADA, the national level, on a council. And so you get to meet all the players, all the people, all the colleagues. And it's just like, I'm telling you, it's like one big family. And that's what I like to tell people, is that my organization feels just like going home, like having a family reunion. And when you go to the Midwinter, that's the kind of feeling you have, that it is really just about family, connectivity, and that connection is palpable. So we really just love it. I mean, you have to experience it to understand it.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I have to say, big congratulations to everything you guys have achieved. I mean, me as a New Zealander, I traveled all the way over to the States and to be at Midwinter, because you're 100% right. You say it's one of the biggest shows in USA. I would say it's one of the biggest shows in the world, not in terms of viewership or, let's say, numbers, but I would definitely say in terms of impact. There's probably 2 or 3 shows, ADEC being one, IDS, and Chicago Midwinter is one of those things that for a lot of companies, it's a landmark show that they need to be in. And I think partly because obviously it's in the US, and the US is the shaker and mover of the dental industry. And you're totally right.
Yes.
The talent and speaking pool over there is second to none. So big congrats on what you guys have achieved. I am curious. So
Thank you.
I Googled your name prior and looked you up, but you've got a number of accolades and you've done a lot of things in dentistry. What is your role now exactly with the CDS, and how long have you been working with it?
Sure. Right now, I currently am the president of the Chicago Dental Society. It's the 5th year of a 5-year officer ladder. So I've been an officer of the organization. Prior to that, about 10 years ago, I was a director on the board of directors, and that was a 3-year plan. And so over time, you get involved in the organization, and then there's opportunities for you to be in the organization in the way that it functions. And so we have meetings throughout the year. We have a very large budget that we have to contend with, and we make decisions that make our organization better and more visible, more effective. And we have core values of, collegiality and education, things of that sort, that we really just want to be the best that we can be for creating opportunities for our dentists, both in leadership and in education. So we just like to be basically the go-to place in Chicago and in the world for people to go to enjoy a great meeting and a great opportunity, but understand that the Chicago Dental Society is a lot more than just a once-a-year meeting. Like I said, we have branches that have meetings throughout the year. We have social events. We have many hands-on opportunities. It's just really an amazing organization. And once you're on the inside, you just want to have more, and you just want to continue to be involved, and you want to be part of what is a fantastic organization. So I've been in it my whole life. They say you drank the Kool-Aid, but I certainly drank the Kool-Aid. I was a practicing dentist for 25 years. The last 12 years, I've been actually a full-time clinician at one of our universities here in the Chicago area. And that's been unbelievably a rewarding experience to be working with the young clinicians that are coming. And I tell you, it's just a wonderful occupation to be a full-time faculty member. So I'm at Midwestern University.
Incredible, man. Well, look, again, big congratulations. I'm I'm almost feeling goosebumps. I wish I was in Chicago with you guys. I would love to be part of this, but of course I'm on the other side of the world. We also have our associations. Yeah, look, it is incredible what you guys have built. One quick note. I would like to thank our sponsor, SprintRay, for supporting this episode of the IDD podcast, Digital Dentistry Decoded. SprintRay, as you guys all know, continues to lead innovation in digital dentistry, in particular with its 3D printing materials and equipment, helping dental professionals streamline workflows from design to same-day delivery or same-day production. Whether you're producing surgical guides, splints, dentures, or restorative applications, SprintRay's technology is no doubt making chairside dentistry faster and more predictable. We've all seen it. We appreciate their support of our podcast. Now back to the episode. Obviously, as someone from the outside, I see your show, and it's really fascinating to me that it always coincides with LMT Lab Day, and that's kind of a really interesting dynamic. Now, I write up a lot about the show, and I'm really interested in, obviously, dentistry and everything that's been happening. So you have an incredibly rich experience in this and running expos and shows and also what's happening in the dental industry. Let's start with the industry itself, Phil. I'd love to just pick your brain. What have you seen? What are some of the major trends? Because some of the things I'm seeing are a little alarming. Some of them obviously are very positive. We're seeing a huge digital wave.
Yes.
Please
Yes.
talk to us. I'm sure you guys have a lot of meetings about this and strategy around what's going on in the industry.
Sure. Well, I'll mention two things right off the bat is that obviously AI is on everybody's tip of the tongue. We went from 2025 to 2026. We doubled our courses in AI. It seems that everybody wants to be on the cutting edge. We want to understand. We want to avoid the pitfalls of what that means to be involved with AI. And so we're really working hard to make that happen for our members. However, we understand that the digital age is upon us. And I can refer to my school. I mean, right now, we have CEREC machines in most every, or 2 or 3 of them in each pod, which has 28 students. And it's almost a 100% digital. I mean, we rarely send anything out to the lab. And it's just an amazing opportunity. We do EMAX, we do zirconia, we do bridges, all digital. And it's just an amazing opportunity to have these young adults have all of these at their fingertips and to be proficient at it. I know that at your organization that you work very hard at helping people get to be their best. And, we give them the opportunity to be the best as well. So when you do go to the Midwinter Meeting, I mean, you get to play with it, right? We call it playing with it, but it really is manipulating it and understanding what you can and cannot do. Everything digital, CBCTs, everything, how the softwares bring everything together. It's an amazing world. And when I graduated, I mean, it was 1987 when I graduated, I did a gold foil restoration to get my license. That was one of the possibilities. Would you like to do a gold foil? Sure. That allowed me to get a dental license, if you can believe it. So we haven't done amalgams, at school for years. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so, and in order to sift through it, you need the best people like yourself or like our clinicians to kind of sift through all of it and just bring out the best. What is it that is really, really important in all of those talking voices? What is it that's really going to be matter? And what's going to happen to you as a practitioner? What does it mean to your patients? And what does it mean to the future of dentistry? Because we have to be mindful of the way we leave this organization, how we leave this for the new dentists that are graduating this year in a couple of weeks. What are we going to do for them? And so it's all very important.
I totally agree with you. The fact that you say it's an avalanche right now, there's no better word for it. I think it's incredible what you share with the gold foil. God, you've seen a lot of changes in dentistry, my friend. You've seen change over this rich career of yours and long career. Do you think now more than any time that you've seen in your history in dentistry, the speed of change is the fastest it's ever been?
It's amazing. The way that we used to go about our dentistry was so methodical and so routine. And then once computers came into our business, remember, I don't know how old you are, but people would say, oh, that's a fad. I don't think those computers have any place in dentistry. And, those non-believers.
People really say that. Oh,
yes. Well, not now, but like when I was younger, they like their pegboard system, keeping track of the counts. My impression material when I was in school was rubber base. I would take 2 putties out and mix them on a pad and squish them on a tooth. And it would literally take 15 minutes to set. And so if you had a bubble on the margin, if it didn't take, or if there was some problem, you'd have to put the patient through that same impression another 15 minutes. And God forbid if you got it on your clothes or anything, it would never come out. It would just ruin your clothes if you were to get it on there. And so in just one lifetime, we have catapulted ourselves so far into the next century. It's just remarkable. And we have to thank a lot of different, very, very smart people, very computer savvy individuals who really have taken dentistry and pushed it into a whole nother realm of comfort and safety for our patients. And really that's what it's all about, is making it a better experience for your patient.
Totally agree. It's kind of crazy to think how much it's changed. Like you say, in one lifetime, from rubber impression materials, like you mentioned, now to scanners, being able to do a full out scan in, 20, 30 seconds really is mind blowing. And,
yes,
we were touching on the point of how fast it's accelerating. And I think, like you say, organizations like the CDS are so critical now, because how does the average dentist now, mom and pop dental clinic who, maybe not in a big group, sift through all of this information? I mean, there's so many new releases every single 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And I think for a lot of dentists, it's getting really hard to understand what is the standard of care right now. Because like you say, before it was so methodological. Like even in university, everything was about research-based practice. All these days, we've forgotten that, sadly. Even though it's taught in the universities, a lot of the sentiment is research is too slow. How can something be research-based practice when every 6 months there's something new? What's your thoughts around that?
Right. Sure. It takes so long to do the research and to have it published and then to have it disseminated across the globe. It would take forever. So really, by having these leading industries, by having the organizations come to our meeting and to demonstrate all of their equipment and their supplies, it allows our attendees to touch it, to practice with it, to experience it firsthand. Not only that, but that they can go down the aisle and they can try the competitor's product as well. Nowhere else in the world can you do that. And so I still think that the Midwinter Meeting and dental meetings in general have a place, but they are expensive to put on. The margin of success is very narrow. And so we have taken the challenge on to maintain that integrity, because we have such a storied past and a rich history. We don't want that to go away. We love that, and we love the opportunity. And so we're doubling down on everything we can do. And our exhibitors are responding to that. I mean, we have signed up over 30% of our exhibitors that were here in 26. They've already signed up for 27. They felt the energy. They understand that those individuals who are coming to the meeting, they want to experience the materials, the equipment themselves, and they want to compare head to head. And again, another big part of it is the social part. I mean, you get to meet colleagues, you get to bring your staff. People get to meet other people and they can exchange ideas. Of course, you can do that digitally. There's no doubt. But there's always that one-to-one opportunity. There's having a meal with somebody, discussing it over a glass of wine. You cannot substitute everything on a digital platform. I mean, you've done a great job in your aspect and unbelievable opportunities on that end, but we can balance it with still the one-on-one, the actual physical, be present and be with people like-minded people. And in our organization too, this past year, we had the largest workshop number ever. We've increased our workshops because everybody wants to come to the meeting and they want to actually hands-on. They want to work with the clinicians. They want to practice the techniques. Hard to do that when you're doing it digitally. But those people, I mean, there's year after year that's been exponentially increasing for there to be more workshops present at our meetings. So we're providing that as well.
I totally agree. Look, I leaned very heavily into digital, not digital dentistry, but the whole platform is a digital media platform. All our publications are digital. A lot of my courses are digital, and the educators we work with purely out of necessity, because I'm isolated. I'm in the end of the world here in New Zealand, and not many people are going to travel 20 plus hours in a plane for a 2-day course. But I totally agree, Phil. I think more than ever, actually, these days, humans are really begging for that interaction and human touch, because, I don't know, online, I think we're all sick of the AI slop. I think we're all sick of the AI videos. I think we're all sick of this constant drudgery of just nonsense. And there's an important aspect of that human touch. And like you say, just connection. In saying that, I think a lot of lectures can be, online, to be honest. I think when you think of a lecture in a booth, not in a booth, in a lecture hall or something, I do believe the connection's good, the community's good. At the same time, the in-person contact you get is really just the Q&A. But where I think in-person is critical, and it touches on your point, is hands-on component. It's critical in dentistry. You can't, yes, I can educate you about scanning or cutting a tooth for a preparation, but without trying it for your hands and repetition, it's not going to work.
Exactly. Yep. You've got to appreciate that.
And so I'm curious, in saying all of that and how important we know human contact is, how are you guys looking down the barrel of the gun of all this digital content that's happening? And I'm not going to say, it's direct competition to expos. I think expos are always going to be here. Conventions are important. But I will tell you, I just came back from IDEM in Singapore and a bunch of other different shows. And the numbers are looking sparser and sparser. And it's getting, I think, really challenging. One, for industry, and two, for, I imagine, industries or companies like yourself, where you obviously see the numbers over the years. And
absolutely,
what's in your mind? What's driving kind of the decrease in numbers? Because a lot of people have theories. Some people blame COVID, some people blame the geopolitical issues, the living crisis. The younger generation is just all online. Is it just something we have to wrangle, and this is just the evolution of where dentistry is going? Or I'd love your thoughts on this.
Well, I would have to say there's probably a little bit of truth in every one of those opportunities that you just talked about. There's a lot of concern, at least in our area, that dental reimbursement hasn't kept up with the technology. Technology is not cheap. And so you have to invest. And in order to invest, you have to make a good living, making a decent amount of money for all the services that you provide. So we have to work somehow to get a better reimbursement rate so that individuals can make a decent living, invest in capital, and provide the best service for our patients. And sometimes, as you know, they're combining practices so that they can afford these technologies. And, there seems to be a much better opportunity if you have multiple practices, a whole army of offices, if it were. And the shift is that the delivery of dentistry will have to change. How we do that probably remains to be seen, how to do it efficiently, effectively, cost effectively. But again, will a dental meeting become a dinosaur, or will it become a nostalgic thing in the future where we look back and say, wasn't that a nice event they used to have back in Chicago every February? I don't see that happening anytime soon. Earlier, you said that you had visited us at Chicago in February. You had a chance to go to the meeting. I don't think you can replace that energy, that excitement, that feeling with anything else. And so until proven otherwise, we're going to keep going because we love what we do. We love the results that we got. And until there's absolutely nothing left, then we'll say it's over. But it's not over for a long time, at least as far as I can tell.
Is it fair to say it's getting harder and harder over the years?
100%, 100%. We have to work smarter. We have to be more agile, as they say. We have to be more nimble. I mean, those are all those fancy words that people use. But it is true, because of the technology racing past us. If you're not rowing in the same direction, you are going to get swept away. And so we have a talented team to stay abreast of all of the trends. We are doing our best to go across the country, and we go into Canada, we go to other meetings, and we are doing our own scouting for the Chicago Dental Society, and we are looking at best practices. And we have full-time employees who are keeping us abreast of all of the latest things that we need to do, whether it's with technology, where we're improving registration platforms at the Midwinter Meeting, we're changing our educational platforms. The speakers have a whole different platform this year. Our organization has switched financial platforms. And so there's nothing that we're leaving behind. Again, we have a very talented team, and we feel very confident that the building blocks that we have will take us to a place that perhaps no other meeting in the country can compare to. And again, we're very proud of that. And it doesn't happen by luck. It happens by hard work. And we're willing to do that.
100%. I can't imagine the amount of work it takes to run a show like this, because even just on the admiral side, it must be massive. Managing all these different speakers and exhibitors and everything. It must be a huge undertaking. And the fact that you say you have 15 staff and they do this, it's mind-blowing.
You probably have never met a more cordial, a more hardworking. They are the most beautiful people you'll ever want to meet. They will be an advocate for us as long as we have them. They are the unbelievable hidden heroes of our organization. I come out there and I get to be I can introduce speakers, or I start the meeting with a ribbon cutting ceremony, or I introduce a guest speaker, and I get the accolades, but it's not me. We have a staff and we have volunteers, and without them, we would be nothing. And so we have to give all the credit where it's due. I come and go. I'm an officer for 5 years. I'll be a past president next year. And so we have to rely on the upcoming generations, and we have to rely on a staff that is second to none. And like I said, I guarantee you that I'll put my staff against any other staff in the world, and I'll take mine every time.
Incredible team. Congratulations. Now, touching back to some of the trends you mentioned, because again, you've been in this game a very long time. You've seen the waves go through Chicago Midwinter and the dental show. You mentioned AI. I saw that as well. It's very fascinating in the US, because AI in the US is unlike anything else. You don't quite see the number of AI receptionists and practice management software any show except in the US.
Yes.
Other leading trends that you're seeing, even up and coming, obviously 3D printing is gaining traction. I'd love to hear your thoughts about 3D printing in a dental office.
Well, yes. I mean, saw some 3D printing that is now over 50% ceramic content. So those can be submitted for 2740s as ceramic crowns. And we're talking about minutes to produce, and it's only going to get better. But the AI, as you probably noticed at the meeting, up and down every aisle, if it wasn't one, it was another. There was AI infused into almost every organization and every product, and rightfully so. I mean, if you don't use AI, you're going to be left behind. And it's an incredible tool, but you have to be mindful. I think you mentioned a little earlier, it's hard to sift through what's real and what's not real, and what's useful and what's not useful. The CDS is actually, I think within the last month or two, our receptionist is AI, because we have a small staff and we do not want to devote a staff person to answering the phones, because AI can do it better. So we're using AI in our own office, and that's, just one example, but you can use it in every touch point in your practice, without a doubt.
And you think that's the way of the future? So, because there's a lot of kicking and screaming, like any wave in dentistry that's happening, whether it's amalgam to composite, whether it's film X-ray.
Yes.
a lot of people are very hesitant. I mean, there's a lot of noise out there. I speak to a lot of AI companies. I actually had a meeting with one of them before this, and there's a lot of noise out there about AI, but the adoption is not really where these companies want it to be.
Well, it's like any tool, if you use it well, it's going to perform well. With students, you have to stress placing a composite restoration has to be perfect every time in order for it to be useful. Otherwise, it's going to fail. So if you use AI flippantly and you don't apply the principles correctly, you will get basically, the garbage in, garbage out. And so if you don't have the proper opportunities to do it the right way, perhaps you shouldn't do it at all. And that's going to take a whole lot of education and a whole lot of paradigm shifting in the mindsets of a lot of dentists who just want to keep doing what they're doing because it's been successful for them, but at their own peril, for sure.
And it's like what you said at the start, you'll otherwise just be left behind. And those are strong words coming from the president of the CDO.
Oh,
is your message basically to every practice out there that they have to just keep up with technology? There's no other way?
Exactly. I think you would be remiss if you thought that you can do without, or if you can kind of catch up later, because playing catch up is not a good idea in this environment today. You have to stay current. You have to be on top of things. And between organizations like mine and yours, that's how people can get the job done.
What other major trends are you seeing, Phil? Even just as a dentist yourself, but also through the show, what do you think are the most up-and-coming exciting things in dentistry? I mean, AI takes a lot of the bandwidth. There's a lot of talk about it. Is there anything else that you perk up and think that's really interesting?
I like to think that what I mentioned earlier is really the up-and-coming thing, which is the 3D printing, the pressed CAD. You think about an ingot that has been, the stalwart for us for 30, 35 years, and yet it's a reductive process. And it's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of diamonds being used. There's breakdown. But yet here comes a noble solution, additive process, 3D printing. And you've seen it in the last 3 to 4 years, how it's exponentially gone from, like, say, an occlusal guard goes from 45, 50 minutes to print. It's down to what now, 12, 14 minutes? That in itself should tell people that you had better pay attention to the 3D printing, because that's the wave I think that's coming. And I don't want to make, any of the other companies, less than happy, but a lot of those milling machines may be less than ideal when you talk about space, when you talk about efficiency, when you talk about maintenance. 3D printing could certainly be a lot more efficient, and patients might like it if it's quicker, faster, easier, and less mess, less maintenance. I mean, all of that. So I think that's really where we're going to be heading in the near future. Obviously, software continues to get better. The imaging, you've seen it time and again in your world, where we have such a phenomenal marriage between the CBCT and the software and the placement of implants, just so precise, so exact. In 100 years, no one would have ever imagined such an advancement. And really, dentists in general now should be just celebrating this. I mean, we have conquered so many issues in the delivery of care, unlike any other profession that's out there. And like I mentioned earlier, I mean, I think that there has to be a bit of a revolution, that we cannot keep getting reimbursed at a level. And in America, the insurance industry kind of squeezes dentists. Like they give you the tiniest little reimbursement for what is a phenomenal opportunity for the patient. And yet we're being given like pennies on the dollar for the tremendous things that we have accomplished. And so there has to be maybe a breaking point or a breaking away point where the dentist can get reimbursed at a rate that's reasonable. And I mean, we could have a whole nother podcast if you'd like about the cost of dentistry, the cost of a dental education in America versus the reimbursement, the cost of a practice startup versus the reimbursement. And, there has to be a point of equilibrium where everything tends to work out. If it doesn't, we're going to be in a bit of a trouble. So
I hear your pain. Here in New Zealand, we're all fee for service, and our fees are relatively light compared to you guys for dental education. I don't know. I was going to say
Right.
it's time for a revolution, but I don't know if you can even use that word anymore.
I meant that in the kindest, most gentlest way.
Yeah, maybe I could say it for you, but yeah, I'm glad we don't really have insurance too much here. But I mean, going back to what
Yeah.
you're saying, I totally agree. It is kind of mind blowing how far dentistry has come. And speaking to people like you, it's amazing to think. You've looked at dentistry, you've watched dentistry change. I've been in
Yes.
private practice for 10 years. I've been graduated for 10 years. I'm 33. I've seen kind of the beginning when I graduated, scanners started coming on the scene and I just rode the wave. But, you'd go
Sure.
from rubber impressions, as you were explaining, to all the incredible stuff we do now with CBCT and AI and
Right.
CAD design that's AI driven and printing. It just must be mind blowing for you.
It really is. And you can imagine there are still people out there that are left behind. They enjoy their little cottage industry. They have found clientele, patients that really enjoy that one-on-one hour and a half visit, hour and 15-minute prophy appointment. But you can't live like that in this world today, And so there has to be some type of mindset. And I think the new graduates are understanding this, that opportunities come, but you have to be ready for them. And this generation, unlike any other I've ever seen, is really poised for greatness. And I think they understand that. I mean, we have more applicants than you can imagine for our dental school. And we have to turn thousands, literally thousands of people away every year because we have no room for them. And they're going to have to go to another. There are schools starting in the United States. There's some schools that have been recently opened. There's schools opening this year. They understand that there is a need for dentistry in the United States. I will say there's probably a maldistribution of dentists. They still all want to practice in the metropolitan area. The youth of today, the young people, they all want to go to the fancy cities with the fancy restaurants and the nice amenities. But in rural America, in many counties, we have zero dentists. And so we have to somehow, and maybe digital will be that answer, because if you can have somebody work remote, and if there could be an AI robotic opportunity that someone could set up in an office thousands of miles away, and that dentist can perform the service via virtual goggles and a handpiece that's not even in the same state. Now you're talking about opportunities that can change the way dentistry is delivered. And that's a pretty cool idea for sure.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And what's really interesting is that the issues you describe are global. Even in our small market here in New Zealand, we have like 2,500 to 3,000 dentists. Again, main concentration in the cities, and the rural areas oftentimes are begging for service. And it's funny, I was speaking to one of my patients recently. He's a doctor and he's setting up an MRI center somewhere in a rural area. And most of it's going to be run by AI. They're going to have a tech, but the diagnostics is run by AI and checked by a radiologist somewhere on computer. And it does show how digital may be, expanding the horizons for where dentistry can service people. I don't know about a robotic handpiece. Look, I'm sure 20, 30 years ago, we laughed at things that are realistic now. So,
Amen.
yeah, so that comes to my next point, which no one has a crystal ball. If we imagine in the past 10 to 15 years how much dentistry has changed, what's the next 10 or 20 years going to hold? And that's kind of the really crazy thing. I mean, thankfully, in any list speaking about AI taking people's jobs, dentists seem to be okay, but it's an interesting thought where this industry is going.
Well, if I had a magic ball, I would say that we're probably getting close to advancing the opportunity to change the oral flora, the biosphere, where you have opportunities where cavities might be a thing of the past, where periodontal disease can be rectified with a swish and spit or with a modification of gene structure. And, those individuals who are doing that type of research, they're probably the unsung heroes as well. And they struggle and strive to do things that will make our lives easier. And perhaps dentists will not have to be making pennies for each sealant that they do or for the crown work that they do, but get reimbursed for actually doing things that are quite noble, reconstruction of lost dentition, tragic accidents, or things that are really important. And who knows, what would it be if we can eradicate disease in people's mouths? And our researchers have to continue to strive for that.
I hear you. And it's fascinating to see within that dynamic, things like the Chicago Dental Society and the Midwinter Show, how it fits into that, because obviously you guys are at the forefront of trying to educate your population and trying to push things forward. And you have all the latest and greatest things at your show. And remarkably, a lot of companies choose your show in particular to launch things. I don't know if you would have noticed, you can go to ADEC, which is just a few weeks before or after, I can't remember, the Midwinter. And that's in Dubai, massive show, probably 5 or 6 times bigger than your show. But then you fly to Chicago Midwinter, and then all the companies choose Chicago to launch new products and make announcements. That's a fascinating dynamic.
It is. And we're very proud of that. And we don't take that for granted either. And we try to make sure that our exhibitors are happy. I mean, they fly in from all over the world. This past year, we had 67 countries represented at our meeting, and we had attendees from every single state in the union. So it's a local meeting per se, but with global impact. And so we really are proud of that. And I guess the way the industry has evolved is that February is the kickoff month for your products. And so you'll see the newest products at our meeting before anybody else will see them. So you're right. And I appreciate you bringing that up. It is a great opportunity. And we're very proud of that fact.
I just have to say, I wish it wasn't in the middle of winter, Phil. I don't know how you Chicagoans do this, because this is the first time I flew into Chicago, I think it was -30. And I came from New Zealand. I've never seen under zero in my city. And I was like, holy smokes.
-30 is just a character builder. It's not a big deal. But the Wednesday, the day before the Midwinter opened, it was 65 degrees in Chicago. So the weather is not always bad, but it's always tolerable. Just pack an extra layer and a hat, and I think you'll be in good shape.
Take your pants. Wear 2 pants.
100%.
Chicago is an incredible city as well. I actually love it.
I meant, don't forget your pants next time.
Never forget those. Chicago is absolutely incredible. And any of our listeners out there, if they ever will get the opportunity to visit the show, honestly, I think it's one of the shows you have to see at least once in your life. I mean, like I say, America is the shake and move of the industry, whether we like it or not. For people out there, it is the biggest market.
Yes.
It is the most digitized market. And it's the one that a lot of companies focus on when they want to launch products. But look, Phil, I really appreciate your time today. To wrap up, is there anything that you want to say to the audience? Whatever it is, the floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate that. We've talked about the Midwinter. I just want to say that it's been a privilege to be a dentist. I can't imagine in my life doing anything else that would have given me as much joy and as pleasure as this, to help individuals throughout their life, to help them with their oral health, and now to help students gain their knowledge and their education. It's really been a great ride for me. And I encourage any dentist at any level at this point listening to this podcast, like you said, come join us in Chicago. Look me up, call the CDS, see what you can do to join, be an associate member. Even from New Zealand, you can be an associate member of the CDS. It's $125. It's like nothing. And then you can come to the meeting, no registration fee to come to the Midwinter meeting. if you're an associate member. So we would glad to host you. We'd be glad to have you. And again, I appreciate the time that you've given me today to chat. And I really appreciate what you've done for dentistry in general with your organization. It's phenomenal.
Thank you so much, Phil. Once again, a big thank you for your time. And honestly, I tip my hat off to everything you guys have done. Like I said, Chicago Midwinter is one of the biggest landmark shows on the globe. So a big congratulations to you, to your team for the tireless work. I mean, a lot of it's thankless. It's a thankless job running these events. I'm sure there's a lot of flack and people crying and moaning, but these events, just a little bit, yeah. These events take a tremendous amount of effort, and we just have to think, if these events did not exist, it'd be bad for the industry. So a big thank you again. I appreciate your time. I love your insights, and that is everything.
It's great talking with you. Have a great rest of your day, and appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Phil. And that is everything, guys, for another episode of the Digital Dentistry Decoded. Very fortunate to speak to Phil, the president of the CDS. As I mentioned, if you haven't checked it out already, check out the Chicago Midwinter Dental Show. I have covered it a lot of times. Every year I head over there and do a summary. But as always, like, comment, share, subscribe to our podcast, and share it with your colleagues if you found this useful. Thanks for listening.